being able to interact with more things in a game makes it more fun. So let's dive into Godot. So I have this scene here, and what I want to do is make this lever play an animation of you pulling it down, and then this door should open. And that's a basic interaction, and I will show you how I would do it, because when I first started out, interactions seemed very complicated to me, and they shouldn't have to be. So I'm gonna try to explain it in the easiest way possible. And in Godot, there's many ways of interacting with objects, and my preferred way is with areas and signals. So I'm going to start by selecting my lever model, and since this is a model that I dragged into the scene, I can click open in editor and click new inherited to create a new scene. This would be the same as just hitting the plus button and making a 3D scene, for example, and dragging in the model that way. Currently this is just a model, it can't do anything, it just exists visually. And to give it some function, I will add a new node, and that will be an area 3D, and it's giving a warning, and that's because we have to give it a shape, and that's a collision shape, and I'm gonna choose the collision shape 3D. And then on the collision shape 3D, we have to give it a shape. For this object, I think a sphere will work well, and then I'm gonna go into the side view and shape it so it's the correct size. Apparently I have the snap tool on, so it doesn't let me change how I want it to, but I click on it and now we can change it in smaller sizes. I think something like this is pretty good. And next we can create a new script. I'm gonna select the root node of the tree and attach a new script. I'm gonna call this lever and create it. Then I will connect the signal from the area 3D. So I'm gonna select the area 3D and go into node, and then we have signals, and I'm gonna connect the area entered signal. So I'm gonna double click on it and hit connect, and then I'm gonna connect the area exited and double click on that and hit connect. I'm gonna remove the ready function. I'm gonna make a new variable, and I'm gonna call this variable inside, and I'm gonna make it a bool. So I'm gonna make it equal false, and if the area entered is true, then we will make the inside equal true. And then on the exited, we can make inside equal false. And you may be wondering what areas it's looking for. And if we go to the inspector tab, we can go to collision. So it exists on layer 1 and it's looking for things on layer 1. So for it to understand that there's another area inside of it, it needs to look for one that's on layer 1. I'm also going to print the inside variable in both of these signals, so we can know when it's inside or not. Then I'm gonna go to the player, and this is just a very simple player with the default script for movement, and then I've added some camera movement. And in the scene, I'm gonna attach a area 3D as well, and then a collision shape, and I'm gonna give it a separation ray shape. It's basically a raycast, but for our area 3D. And I can see that it's rotated in the wrong direction. So I'm gonna rotate it towards where my camera's looking. And then I can drag it out. Maybe I want it to be 3 meters. Then we can drag it up a little bit so it's in the center of the camera. And if we want to, we can change the debug color. I'm gonna make it red so it's easier to see in this scene. And now you can see it. If you want the interaction shape to be a little bit bigger, you could make it a cube or something, and this is very big right now, but you can make it smaller. I'm gonna stick with the separation ray. Then we can select the area 3D, and on collision, make sure it's on the layer that the lever is looking for. By default it's gonna be on layer 1, and by default it's also gonna look for layer 1, so that's fine. And right now, if we play the game, the camera will move on its own, and we want it to move with the camera when you look around. So we're gonna drag the area 3D as a child of the camera 3D, and now when we rotate the camera, it will move with the camera. If it's not a child, it won't move with the camera if we do that. It's important to have it as a child of the camera. And we can go back to the level, and I have my lever scene that I made, but that lever scene is a separate scene from this lever, so I have to replace it with my new lever. I want it to be in the same location and the same size as the old lever, so I can just drag it onto the old lever and it will become a child. And if I move it out, you can see that it was inside of it. We can drag it out of being a child, so it's just a sibling, and we can remove the old lever which is the lever 2. So I'm gonna delete it and hit OK. And now we have the new lever from the scene we made. We can save the level and we can play it. And now if I walk up to the lever, it will print true. And if I look away, it will print false. And the next thing we want to do is to make it be able to open a door. So let's go back to the lever and open up its script. And now we will add a custom signal. And similar to the variable, we just type signal and then we give it a name. I'm gonna call this open underscore door. And a custom signal gives the node with the script attached to it a custom signal. So I can go into the lever 22 and node. And now under signals, I will see a custom one, which says open door. We can connect that signal to the door later. But first we want to decide when to emit it. So I'm gonna make a new function, and this will be an input function. And this will look for the input when we interact with the lever. First we have to make the input when we interact with the lever. So we can go to project and project settings, and it will look something like this. Then we can go into the input map and add a new action. We can call this action interact, and then we can hit the plus button for add. And then on the input, we have to connect a event. So we hit the plus button on it, add event. And I want to look for the keyboard button E. So as long as I'm inside of the listening for input, I can press E on my keyboard and E should show up. And then I can hit OK to add it. And it will look like this. I'm going to close this down now. And inside of the input function, we can check if the event is the action pressed. And we want to check for the interact. Then we do colon. And then if we interact, we want to check if the variable inside that we made is true. And to do that, we do a double equal. And then we want to check if it's true. And then we do colon. And if we're interacting and we're also inside of the area, we want to emit the signal. And emitting the signal basically means that whatever we connected the signal to will know that it happened. So we do emit underscore signal. And the signal we want to emit is the one we called open door. And before we emit the signal, I want to do an animation for the lever. And luckily there's already an animation player here with a animation for toggle on. So I'm going to play that before I emit the signal. So I'm going to drag in the animation player into the script and do .play. And I want to play the toggle on animation. And I don't want it to happen at the same time. So below this, I'm going to wait for it to finish. So I'm going to do await, drag in the animation player again, and then do .animation underscore finished. So it will play the animation, wait for the animation to finish, and then emit the signal. I'm going to save the script and I'm going to go back to the level, and then I'm going to select the door. Then I'm going to open this in the editor as well and make a new scene. And I'm going to save the scene as door. And this already has a animation player on it, one for open, which I like. I'm gonna attach a new script to it, and then we can go back to the level. And I want my new door in here, so I'm gonna drag in the door as a child of the current door, and then I'm gonna drag it above it and remove the old one. And now I can click on the lever and on the node and signals, and now I can connect the open door signal from the lever to the door. So I'm gonna double click on the signal. I'm going to find the node with the script attached to it, and I can also filter for it. So I'm gonna search for door. Here I have the door sliding double round free, and I can see that it has the script attached to it. I'm gonna hit connect, and I'm gonna go back to the door scene. And when this signal gets called, I'm going to drag in the animation player and do .play, and I want to play the open animation. I'm gonna save this, and I can remove the ready in process because I don't need it. And if I save this now and go back to my level and play my level and walk up to the lever, it should say true when I enter it, and when I exit it, it should say false. If I enter it again, it will say true, and if I press E, it should play the animation on the lever. When it finishes the animation on the lever, it should emit the signal from the lever to the door, and the door should open. So I'm gonna press E now, and it was pretty quick there, but you saw that the lever played animation and then open the door. Now I can walk over here and get the flag. And according to me, this is the easiest way to interact with objects in Godot. Hopefully I explained it in an easily understandable way. And if you have any questions, you can ask them below. Thanks for watching, and special thanks to my members. For source code, custom videos or coaching, check out my Ko-Fi, and I'll see you in the next one.